This is the Seven Figure Standard Podcast, hosted by Arash Vasugi and Mikey Stiller, with mindset and strategies to help you break through and create personal freedom.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Seven Figure Standard Podcast. I'm Mikey Stiller. So happy to be back with you for another episode, joined, of course, by my co-host, Arash Vasugi. Arash, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mikey. How are you?
I'm doing great as well. I'm excited about today's lesson. We're going to get into building a bigger idea of yourself. And for some of you, that may be the first time you've heard such talk. You might be thinking, what is the current idea I have of myself? And that's a great place to start. So, Arash, I want you to get into, what does that even mean? What does it mean to build a bigger idea of yourself?
You know, this is such a big topic that really changed my direction of really, I can look at back now several years. This building a bigger idea changed my life. I remember I was on a phone call with Bob Proctor, and him and I were joking, and he said, let's come up with this idea. And so I came up and he said, let's get back on a call and mastermind when you have the idea. And I called him back and I said, I've got this idea. I've got the idea we're going to work on. And he said, well, what is it? So I tell him I'm super jazzed up about it. And I tell him this idea and I'm super proud about it. And he goes, I don't like it. And we both started laughing because there was no ego between us whenever we'd mastermind. Anyway, he said, I understand where the idea is coming. He said, you're coming from your current programming. He said, I want you to come from my program and I'm going to come from somebody's program that's much greater than mine. And he said, you know, Arash, what we have to do is build a bigger idea of ourselves. And I said, hold on, what did you just say? For all the time working with him, and I mean, we talk 5 times a day, a lot of times. Yeah. And he goes, I don't know what I said. I said, you said something about building a bigger idea of yourself. I said, I've never heard you say that. He goes, I don't think I've ever said it. And I said, I just started thinking of what that meant. And him and I got back on a phone a week later, and we came up with this huge idea that took off. I mean, just took off. But it came from this concept of building a bigger idea. And I want everybody to look at your results right now. I'm always telling you, you want to observe your results because they always tell the story. The results never lie. They're neutral, but they tell a big story. But my results, I'll talk for me right now, are telling me a story of the idea that I'm working with of myself. If we go back to our last podcast episode, when we were talking about money and prosperity and wealth, I said the only limit to your income is you. Well, the only limit to our results are ourselves. So as you build a bigger idea and expand yourself, I want you to have an enormous idea of yourself. And that's not from arrogance, that's from understanding. That comes from confidence and understanding that if one person can do it, anybody can do it. And you don't know how far you could take your life. You don't know how far you could take your results. And as you build a bigger idea, boom, it takes off. Like you literally go on a much different level of frequency. It's like you take yourself from first gear into fifth gear. This is one of the most important things that we can all work on.
So, Arash, I feel like there's identity and then there's building a bigger idea of yourself. And they're sort of running in parallel, but building a bigger idea of yourself is like identity in action. Talk about that, and if you agree.
No, I agree. That's a perfect word. It is identity in action. It's building your identity is what you're doing. You're practicing your identity. And when you're building an idea, it's not an intellectual thing. It's not something you write out. When you're building a bigger idea, you just start acting that you're taking action steps much greater than you've ever taken. Maybe you're calling somebody that you would have never called before to ask them for their business or ask them for help. Like, it's so interesting to me. A lot of people will want to become more, yet they don't surround themselves with A+ performers. The A+ performers are always wanting to teach people what they've done. Because at one point they were a C- performer. And when you're building a bigger idea, you want to learn from people you admire, people who are really making it happen. And one of the best advices I ever received from my mentor was find somebody who has performed the results you want to perform and do exactly what they tell you to do. And that, what I just told you right there, is the start of building a bigger idea. And then you go act as that person. Like, this isn't fake. You go do the action steps. You go change your thinking patterns, and that's how you do it.
Okay, let's keep going on this track because the action part is so important. We've all been in this place where you're doing all the studying, you're looking for the idea, you're getting on the calls, you're reading the books, you're looking for the inspiration, but you're not actually taking any action. You're looking for the answer to be presented to you before you're taking any forward steps. I know that's where you were 15 to 18 years ago. I feel like I've been there a couple of times over the last 15 years where you're tricking yourself into thinking that you're doing things to move forward, but really what you're doing is procrastinating, is nothing, a lot of nothing. So I want to talk just to how important this building a bigger idea of yourself connected to action is, because the only way to really build your identity, the only way to really change your results, to change the way you feel about yourself, you see yourself, your results, is to do things differently, to take action. Without the action, nothing changes.
Yeah, and I would connect something else to it too with what you're talking about. You have to mix decision making with your want. Well, I'm always talking about, what do you want more than anything else in the world? Well, you have to make a definite decision. This is what I'm doing no matter what. I don't care what happens. I don't care how it happens. This is what I'm doing. But you know what the culprit is? The old program. The program's going to say, can I do it? Well, what if it doesn't work? See, most people, and to the listeners listening to this, I want you to really pay close attention. I'm talking to you right now. Are you making decisions based on what you already know that's going to happen if you make that decision? Or are you going to this liminal space, this unknown space where you walk in and you say, this is what I'm doing. I'm keep doing ideas that are so foreign to my five senses. They're so foreign to what I've ever done. That's where the magic happens. That's how you build the bigger idea. But action, the precipice of action, is you've got to be a dog. Like, to build a bigger idea, you got to be a dog. Like, you can't do it timid. You can't do it passive. You have to say, I'm willing to fail. I'm willing to fail in order to win. And that's how you build the bigger idea. You're not going to build it coming from the same ways you made decision. And I'll give you another key. Whenever I'm working on my goals and working on a bigger idea and building this bigger idea, every decision I make comes from the person who already achieved that goal. That's very critical. Most people are making decisions from their present standard, their present result. I want it to be made from the achieved goal. So you're coming from the goal, not to the goal.
I love that, Raj. Okay. So I would say that there's probably probably more, but I'm going to do three groups of people. There's this really big group of people that are complacent. They don't really have any big wants, nothing they're moving towards. I don't think that's our listener. If you're listening to this podcast, that to me means you want more and better. You're going after something. Then there's this group that's a little bit smaller, but it's still a pretty big group. They know they want more. They know they want better, but they haven't gotten crystal clear on it. That's kind of a dangerous place to be. And then, of course, there is the very select few who are going all in, know exactly what they want, and they're going for it. What I want you to talk about is how to get out of those first two groups and into the third.
Well, we got to understand 97 out of 100 people, if you talk to, they're going down the wrong road. They're making decisions based on what they can see with their five senses. They're doing it based on their rational mind. That's what your five senses is. And they're using a very limited portion of their potential. And how you get out of it first is you've got to set a big goal, something that inspires you, something that is greater than anything you've ever done, the vision is going to take your mind over. And that's the starting point. The starting point is you defining and really defining it properly with a definite decision. This is the vision I'm going to live with. And once you do that, you're already out of that other group. Now you're coming from being inspirational, and not just inspirational, you're being inspirationally dissatisfied, where you say to yourself, I know I'm worth more than that. I know that I can accomplish more. So that's how you bust through that group. Like if you look at this, in my opinion, the principal reason of failure is two things. One is lack of confidence, and the second is too much effort. Now, the second one, a lot of people are going to be thinking, oh, what does that mean? You have to have a good work ethic. You do. That's not what I'm talking about. You want to come from neutral. It is already here. And think about, Mike, I want you to think about somebody when you were growing up who had a crush on you. They really wanted to date you, but they were trying too hard. It was like a repellent energy, right?
Yeah.
And it lacked confidence. Well, that's the same thing with our goals. Our goals, if we are coming from need, we're coming from fear. And we're sending ourselves that double binding message. Now, here's a big part. Like this, if you guys get this, this will be huge. Your imagination is your most powerful faculty that we have. And your imagination is always going to trump your want. So let's say somebody's sitting here right now and they're saying, I want to create financial freedom. I want to create a world-class business. Yet in their imagination, they have all these doubts creeping in. They have, I wonder if I can do it. Or they have this anxiety. Is this real? And what's going to happen is their imagination is going to be stronger than their want. And the imagination is the dominating idea being expressed in their subconscious mind, which creates their results. We have to get this. Your imagination has to be aligned with faith. That's what your subconscious works with. Your subconscious mind is never working with coercion. When you try to coerce it and manipulate it, it shuts off. See, what it works on is faith and acceptance of an idea. When you accept an idea and you build that faith muscle, and faith is detaching from the senses. That's what faith is. It's bringing in something into your reality that you've never seen before, but you say, I know that I know this is what I'm going to do. And that's how you are going to create effortless success.
Okay, I love that. I want to keep going on two of the tracks that you just started on. One is imagination and the other is the subconscious mind. So when you're building a bigger idea of yourself, is that done in the conscious mind or the subconscious mind or both?
Both. It starts in the conscious mind. Everything starts in the conscious mind. And then you express it through your subconscious goes off of your habitual thinking, what you're thinking about more than anything else. That creates the dominating idea. Your subconscious is so powerful. And see, confidence I was talking about earlier. You know when you gain confidence, when you understand how to use your mind. That's when you gain confidence because you're like, oh, I'm going to plant this idea, this idea, this idea. You know, if you think of a gardener, you know, there is no garden without a gardener. Well, that's the same thing. Like our garden is our subconscious mind. We've got to be planting seeds that we're in harmony with. So I can't plant seeds of abundance coming from worry, doubt, and fear. They're opposite. So I have to develop my faith muscle. How do I do it? By building a bigger idea. I say, this is the only idea I'm accepting no matter what. Not, oh, when things are going good. It's no matter what.
No matter what. I love that. Okay. So I'm going to go into the practicality of building a bigger idea of yourself. You have your imagination. Are you actually sitting down and with your imagination thinking, okay, what would a bigger idea of myself be doing right now? Are you taking a pen and a piece of paper and writing down ideas of bigger ideas? I want to practically walk through what it looks like.
So I can only tell you the way I've done it.
Yeah.
And I've done it every time is I study people I admire and I look at their characteristics and I go, I love that part of them. And I start acting in that moment, that very moment, I start acting like that person. Or that characteristics. Mm-hmm. So it's not something that I'm causing myself all this effort, all this strain. It's effortless. So I just do the action, call that person, constantly getting out of my comfort zone. See, I think everybody who's listening to this right now, I don't even think you're even close to tapping into what you have inside of you. I think there's a spark that's dying to come out of you. Whatever you're doing right now, I know you could do 25 times better. Why? Because I'm doing a lot better than what I was doing 15 years ago. And I can tell you, it's about having courage. This is an interesting thing. Like courage is what changed my life. When you have courage that's working with a bigger idea, it doesn't mean you know how you're going to do it. That's another level of confidence. Confidence is being congruent with your vision, being congruent with your goals. And when you have confidence, it's not because you know how to do something. That's not confidence. It's because you may not know how to do it, but you know you could figure it out. That's building a bigger idea. That's stepping into a bigger version of yourself.
And so what I'm hearing you say is that as you're building a bigger idea of yourself, you're getting ideas, you're just accepting the idea and moving. You're not spending a whole lot of time sitting there wondering what you should be doing. You're spending a lot more time actually in the doing.
In the doing. See, the doing is where the power is. It's not in anything else. See, there's no such thing. I'm not asking you to sit there, think about what you want all day long and then do nothing. That's called delusion. You have to get in the doing. And you want to be making sure you're working on 3 to 6 goal achieving activities every day towards that doing, towards that bigger idea, how that person will really work on. And here's the challenge. Most people are letting the outside control their thinking. They're letting the outside control their action. They literally get hypnotized to do nothing. And they start rationalizing. They say, no, everything's good. The economy. I think that's the biggest load of crap. They're being a victim. And we have a society of the people that are not making it happen because they're letting the cause be the effect and the effect be the cause. What I mean by that, they're letting the results be the problem. The results are never the problem. We're always the solution. We're always the problem. So we've got to get that straight. And we've got to direct all our power, all our thinking in a certain direction and in a certain way. And that way is building the bigger idea.
I love that. Okay, so when we say build a bigger idea of yourself, idea is singular, but there could be several different ideas of yourself, right? You have a bigger idea of yourself as it comes to your health. You have a bigger idea of yourself as it comes to yourself professionally. Am I going along the right track here?
You are. They're all the same, though. It's the same foundation piece. It's the same amount of courage. What I'm asking everybody to do is test this. Don't believe me. Test it for yourself. But test it from the doing of not overthinking, of really within a millisecond act on the idea of that bigger person constantly. I've never met anybody in my life who has really made things happen who is not urgent. Urgent is an attitude. And it's one of the most powerful attitudes we have. We want to do things in a calm, confident manner with a rocket fuel on our back, where we get things done, and that becomes part of your bigger idea.
1000%. I always think about Murphy's Law, about an object in motion stays in motion. And so anytime I don't know what to do or I'm stuck, I'm not sure what the next several steps look like, I always think of that and just take one step, just do one thing to keep in motion. Because if you stay stuck too long, or if you stay still too long, you're going to stay there a long time. And I'd love to know your thoughts on that.
No, I completely agree. I mean, a body in motion is always in motion, so when we're acting, we create momentum. And momentum isn't given, it's earned by our thinking, by our feelings, and by what we do. That's how we get it really taking off.
Awesome. All right, Raj, let's get into the action piece of today's podcast. What is a good action step that everyone can be taking, or maybe a couple of action steps, whatever you have, to build a bigger idea of themselves?
Well, I want you to think of a few people that you admire and watch how they behave, watch how they act, and start doing that right away. I want it to be effortless. I don't need you to go and get in your analytical mind. There's such little power there. I want you to just go be that person. I don't want you to think. I want you to get in the spirit of what you want. I want it to overflow you. See, the only thing you have to understand to overcome any setback, any failure, is to get your subconscious mind to accept what you want. What is it that you want? And you go and act like that person right now, but you literally take the actions. You take the action, even if it's one action step. Then tomorrow it's 2 action steps. And then you're building momentum with you. I'm telling you, this is a game changer. And if you're sitting there right now and you're letting your conditions and circumstance, the outside, control you, I want you to say to the conditions and circumstance, this will pass. What you're doing is you're not giving it energy anymore. you're already communicating with it saying, I'm not letting you control me. And we want to use the law of least effort. We want to understand it. The more effort doesn't create the best results. The more energy does. You put energy towards your goals. You put passion towards your goals. You put intensity towards your goals. You take action steps towards it. This is why your morning is so important. How you start your day is how you own your day. And your morning is going to create that such great direction towards where you're going.
Absolutely. There's two words that you just said there that I love and I really want to highlight. The first is momentum and the second is intensity. I think those are really important. And if you missed it, just rewind maybe 60 seconds and re-listen to what Arash just said. Also, he just touched on how important your morning routine is, and something that Arash absolutely loves, and we love at Voss Coaching Co., is processes. So on next week's episode, we're going to get into your morning and evening routine. It's going to be an episode you don't want to miss. But thank you all so much for joining us this week. Please leave us a review and rating. Share this podcast with your friends and family. And we'll see you back next week for another episode of the 7-Figure Standard. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 7-Figure Standard. We hope you found the insights and strategies helpful on your journey to success. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform to help us reach more people like you. To learn more about Arash and Mikey and how Voss Coaching Co. can help you achieve your goals and reach new levels of success, visit vosscoachingco.com. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of 7-Figure Standard.